think this is a very important topic. I think it's one that's hard to approach, but those of you who know me, nothing is really too hard for me to approach. So we need to talk about it. We need to share information, and that's what tonight's about. I'm going to use this opportunity, of course, just to remind you that Saturday starts our regional tutoring program for those students who have to retake regions in January. Our homework center started today, and we had quite a number of students who went to the homework cell. And next Tuesday, again, another serious night where we will do Narcan training. And if any of you have upperclassmen, especially juniors and seniors, I strongly suggest that they come and they be trained. You never know when you're going to be in that situation where you have to save a life. So we're hoping that we get a large turnout for that already. And if you didn't see the email to register, we're just asking you to register for that. You don't even have to use your real name. We just need numbers so we know how many kids. There's $70 a kid or so. So we want to make sure we have enough kids here for the number of people that will show up. So at this time, I just want to introduce to you Ms. Gannon, who's been working very closely with everyone at Staten Island University Hospital, and she'll tell you a little bit more about the work we've been doing. What I want to say to you, like I said last night, there has been an increase in the number of referrals this year to mental health professionals. There has been a large increase in the number of students who had plans or had thought about suicide. There has been a large number of students who attempted and failed and have been hospitalized, and we lost 2 students since August. So this is something serious, and we can't turn our backs on this. So that's why we're here tonight. And again, I thank you for being here, Ms. Gannon.
Thank you. I too want to welcome you to being here this evening for this very important discussion. As many of you may know, as Ms. DeAngelis just mentioned, just over 1 month ago, we lost a student who unfortunately took her own life. She was a student who was well known to us here in the school, well known to the health center, well known to guidance personnel in this building. And again, as Ms. DeAngelis mentioned earlier in the year, prior to school beginning, an incoming student unfortunately took his life as well on Labor Day weekend. I wanted to just briefly share some of the statistics that Ms. DeAngelis just mentioned. This year, we have 16 cases of students who have either indicated a desire to harm themselves or have made a suicide attempt this year. We have 15 students who on a regular basis are doing self-harm to themselves as a means for releasing some of that energies, and Dr. Peng and her team will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And we have over 150 reported students who are dealing with some level of mental health issues. And I think that is the reason why we're here this evening, is to really address the fact that our students, while we want them to be successful and do well academically, if we don't address these mental health concerns with our students, it's very difficult for them to have any level of success, not only in school, but in life in general. We're very blessed to have a partnership, and I think something that we believe is unique and special, not just in New York, but in high schools in general, but on Staten Island. We have a partnership with Dr. Peng and her team from Staten Island University Health Center, and they're here tonight to share some of their expertise with us. But I also, just before I turn the agenda over to Dr. Peng, I just want to acknowledge the fact that several members of the guidance staff are here also this evening and are available at various parts to discuss any concerns that you may have about your child or anything that you may want to address. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Peng, and she'll be from here.
But each one of them themselves so that the parents know who's who and what SLC or programs they're involved with. Want to talk about
Mr. Britton, Institute of Health Sciences.
Steve Lopez, Agua. Stephanie Canucci, Peer Prevention. Danielle Collins, Medical Science Institute. Stephanie Antonaccio, Law, AFJ, ROTC.
Mike Padmore, Forensic Science.
Okay, so we're pretty well represented this evening. So, Dr. Peng, it's your show. Thank you.
Thank you for having us here. So this is our first time to present in the parent-teacher meetings. But we've been here since last week, every Monday, coming to provide mental health services. So we work very closely with our school guidance counselors who refer patients, also refer students to us. Yeah, is it? Okay, so we refer students to us when they have concerns about if there's recent changes in their behaviors in school, in their relationships with peers, or there are any changes of their academic performance or school attendance. So we also work very closely, I think, with the parents as well, whose kids refer to us for evaluation. So here we do assessment, and then we also provide our clinical information based on the interview with the kids and then with the parents, and also gather information from our teachers and the school guidance counselors. So this is the part of the regular service we come here to provide to the school. Actually, is for easy access for our teams. In the meantime, in the hospital at CVO, in the emergency room, we also do a lot of seeing a lot of kids at crisis. So one of the phenomena we observed over time since our service here is that when the kids presenting their issues to us, it seems like they have some kind of history already for quite a while. And then it's more alarming to us is that they basically report a lot of self-harming behaviors, substance abuse behavior, but also they're talking about they attempted twice or three times just in the past 2 or 3 months. So these are really, also linked to our recent, loss of students. So we really feel like the school want us, to work together to provide this kind of educational session for the parents to how to identify suicidal mental health disorders in adolescents. All right. So you already find that there's form or questionnaires that for us to understand, at the baseline, what's your understanding of these, information. And then after our presentation, this is our team of the resident doctors. So they will introduce themselves, and then also the medical student doctors. Okay. So we'll present some information that's well developed by the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. So these materials they've been developed for years, and then it's always updated by the experts in the field, and also I think a lot of community mental health workers, parents, students, school educators. So these informations are very, I think, well validated in terms of the evidence base. So we're going to share with the parents today. All right. So after the educational session, we also want you to go through the similar questions again, just to see whether there's any changes in your, attitudes about certain topics. All right. So the first one, I will later on just go circle them and collect the first batch, and then at the very end, after our presentation, we'll have questions and answers, that section, and then after that, if anyone still have any questions, you can always, let us know, and then we can present the second time if you're saying, I have friends or my kids still have, friends or parents or relatives who wants to have this session again, who will let us know, and then we can repeat the session. All right, thank you so much. So let's start actually. We touched it? Okay, so this is already talked about. Right, so the goal is to learn about teen depression and suicide, and then identify the warning signs and risk factors for suicide behaviors in teens. Understand the role of the treatment in reducing these risks, and also learn how to approach your children to talk about depression and suicide. All right. Okay, I think I'll just go for
We don't want to miss any valuable information that's saying.
Sorry, I don't know what I touched. Okay.
Every word of it.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Hello. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Hong. I'm one of the third-year resident physicians working with Dr. Peng. So first, what is the scope of the So what is the scope of the problem? In 2015, a total of over about 45,000 suicide deaths were reported in the U.S. That works out to a suicide rate of 13 suicides occurring for every 100,000 people in our country. At that rate, suicide was the 10th leading cause of death in the population overall. So what does that mean for youth ages 10 to 24? So about 6,000 deaths occurred in 2015. This made suicide the second leading cause of death among youth following unintentional injury. And this graph right here shows suicide rates across lifespans. So you can see that the suicide rate increased more dramatically during the adolescent and early adulthood than any other life stage. So when we look solely at deaths by suicide, we're missing the bigger picture. For young people, reports show that an estimated 100 to 200 suicide attempts that require medical attention for every reported death by suicide. So for 2015 alone, over 182,000 youth people were hospitalized for self-inflicted injuries. So a question for the audience. What percentage of high school students have attempted suicide in the past year? Do you think it's 1 in 100, 1 in 25, 1 in 50, or 1 in 12? Oh, very smart, okay. Yes, so it's a growing problem. Nearly 1 in 6 high school students have seriously considered suicide, and 1 in 12 has attempted it. So this school has 3 high school students. So what is a suicidal act? A suicidal act is when a person intentionally initiates an action with the expectation that their death is likely to result, or purposely is a self-inflicting injury with the hope of ending one's life. Other terms that are important to know, though. So, suicidal thoughts or ideation. That means thinking or wishing to die, having desire to not live, thinking of methods to end one's life, and spending more and more time imagining that death is a release from pain or unpleasant situations. So a suicide attempt would be a self-harming behavior with a non-fatal outcome, in which there is at some point some intention or desire to end one's life. So that would even include, say, a child took 3 Advils thinking they were going to overdose, but even 3, that counts as a suicide attempt because they had the thought that they wanted to end their life.
and non-suicidal self-injury. That would mean the deliberate destruction of body tissue without a lethal intention. And while this behavior doesn't necessarily occur with suicidal ideation, it increases the tolerance of serious self-damage leading to potential suicide. So suicidal ideation is life-threatening and it must be taken seriously each time. So now that we've defined the problem, let's identify the risk factors. So a key risk factor for suicide among all age groups is the presence of a mental health condition, especially those that are undiagnosed, untreated, and ineffectually treated. So research has shown that 90% of those, or 9 out of 10 people who die by suicide, have a treatable mental health condition at the time of their death. So as with any other health condition, early detection and treatment can save lives. So has anyone ever thought that their child was being moody on a day, or felt that they were being lazy, or that they had a poor attitude, that they were being kind of immature, and that you've been noticing maybe they've been like this for maybe a couple months or so? These behaviors can hide mental health symptoms. They can also often be misinterpreted as normal teenage behavior, but really this can indicate a more serious mental health disorder. And if you notice a change, it never hurts to have a conversation with your child about what you're seeing. You are the most important person in your child's life. So, warning signs. While suicide risk factors endure over some period of time, warning signs signal imminent suicide risk. So if you hear your child talk about ending their life, feeling hopeless, having no reason to live, feeling like a burden onto others, feeling trapped, they could say, I can't live like this anymore, everyone would be better off without me, there's no way out of this. You know, don't assume that they're joking or that they're just trying to get attention. Always start a caring conversation. What kind of behaviors would signal risk? We would want to look for increased alcohol or drug use, withdrawal from their previous activities, isolating from family and friends, increased aggression, picking fights. But 3 behaviors that would signal significant risk would be looking for a way to kill themselves, such as Googling suicide methods, saying goodbye to family or friends, giving away prized possessions, and suicide notes or texts to their friends. So what to look for in terms of mood? People who are considering suicide often display one or more of the following mood. Depression, that's not just the blues, that often persists. Anxiety, loss of interest, irritability, humiliation, agitation, rage. Sometimes the best indication that someone is at risk is a sudden change in their mood. So when we're seeing these warning signs, it's time to start a conversation. So now that we've covered the warning signs, Dr. Stram will talk about the mental health conditions associated with suicide and their treatment.
Very important to observe the change in their mood, the change in their behavior, and the change the way they talk. And if they become more withdrawn from the family or not even participate in whatever the activity they used to, so interested in, these are the things that we need to monitor. Warning signs.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Stram. I work with Dr. Peng and Dr. Jane. The first thing I'd like to start with is to note that the risk of suicide is most clearly linked to 7 mental health conditions, which you may or may not be familiar with. Which include major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, eating disorders, anxiety disorders, including panic disorders, schizophrenia, substance use disorders, and conduct disorders, which basically involves disruptive behavioral problems, kids who get in fights with authorities, have issues with bullying, and focusing on solely on these mental health conditions, unfortunately, though, it doesn't really give us a full picture of the complexities of suicide risk. We know that suicide risk is an independent risk of suicide is not only associated with these conditions, it can occur independently. So More Than Sad, which is this workshop and a video which you can also access online, even on YouTube, is this workshop created by the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And it basically is here to provide a model for the effective recognition and treatment of depression in teens. Something to note is that if you watch this video online, which unfortunately we don't have time for, it's about 25 minutes long, it's an excellent video. It demonstrates ideal help-seeking behaviors among teens and ideal responses on part of the school personnel, physicians, and mental health professionals. It really represents best case scenarios, and it really may not align with what your family, your friends have actually experienced when seeking help for their teens. Because we don't have time, unfortunately, to show this video, I'd just like to address some of the key points that you can take away from it, and hopefully, when you watch it, review. So first, we want to get across that depression is a very common problem, and it causes significant distress and disruption in teenagers' lives. Secondly, depression is an illness. It's not a character weakness. It's not something someone can just change at will. Furthermore, depression can develop after a stressful life experience, but it can also just occur in anyone at any random time. And typically, depression doesn't go away on its own. And if left untreated, it can lead to very serious consequences, including suicide. And most importantly, the point we'd like you to take away is that there is treatment available for depression, and that treatment works. Okay, so, regarding mental health treatment, although treatments will vary from person to person based on their condition, their severity level, teens who are showing signs of depression can really show improvement within 4 to 6 weeks of treatment. And when I say treatment, I'm not necessarily referring to just medications. This is considering just talk therapy or coaching sessions. Even education about mental illness in general can really help a teen cope with what they're going through. Other things like complementary interventions such as yoga, breathing exercises, a change in your diet and activity habits can really improve mood and relieve anxiety and distress. And we know that improvements in physical health can improve mental health and vice versa. Medication is sometimes essential in treating severe depression and other serious mental health conditions, such as bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. But most importantly for you, we know that teens will learn to cope better when their family engages in therapy with them for at least a period of time. Okay, so I'll just read that part. So treatment for depression can vary, as I said, in length and in nature. For some, depression is an episode from which they'll recover, but for others, depression might involve multiple episodes, and it might need to be addressed more like a chronic illness such as diabetes. In these instances, it can be recommended that treatment continue to help prevent problems in functioning in the future rather than addressing crises as they come up. This is why it's important to have depressive symptoms that your child is experiencing evaluated by a trained professional. And also to remember that no simple approach works for everyone. There is no one size fits all. Sometimes people are going to need to try different treatments. And even when someone is treated effectively for a mental health condition, it can still recur. It can still reoccur, just like any other physical or medical condition would. Okay. So what are some ways that you can support your child in seeking the kind of help that they would benefit from? So one, you'd want to find a mental health professional who's a good fit for your child. That means someone they feel they can connect to and open up to. So in other words, if they go to one therapist or psychiatrist and after a month or two, they're saying, like, I'm not really getting much out of this, it's worth it to go and find someone else. Keep trying until you find that connection. You want to keep that mental health professional, whoever they are, up to date with changes in behavior or responses to medication. They should basically know everything that you know about your child and your child's behavior, especially about any thoughts of suicide. Try to keep a record of all medications or any side effects that your child has. Speak with your school counselor, keep them involved. That's another eye on your child all day long while they're at school. And try to be patient with your child, because treatment is a process and you'll be learning together. So another way to support your child is to help identify any barriers there might be to their treatment. As we discussed earlier, although treatment is effective in most cases, some barriers can get in the way, leading to only 1/3 of teenagers getting the help they need. Sometimes the symptoms aren't recognized as signs of possible health condition and are dismissed, even by the person experiencing them themselves. Sometimes people avoid treatment because they're afraid of what it might entail. For example, misunderstandings about what medications do. People think, or especially teenagers think, this might affect my personality. What if I become a zombie? That kind of thing. Signs and symptoms of depression, such as a sense of helplessness or hopelessness, can block your teenager from even believing that they can be helped or should be helped. Getting help really needs to be modeled and seen as a sign of strength. I think the whole point of this program is that we need to foster a culture in our schools and society that makes reaching out for help socially acceptable and encouraged. When help seeking is seen as a weakness, mental health conditions are misunderstood, they're mocked, and even demonized. So these social conditions can make it even harder for a teen who's already experiencing a mental health crisis to reach out for help. So what can you do to help your child stay safe? One, you want to try and make sure your child receives mental health care when they need it, as we discussed. Two, you want to encourage strong connections to family, friends, and any kind of institutions within your community, your church, Jewish community center, etc. Three, you want to try and create and maintain a safe and supportive home where your child knows it's always okay to reach out for help, and try also to limit access to any kind of lethal means that might be around the home, such as firearms. Four, you want to try to nurture problem solving and good communication skills. Try to treat any disappointments in your child's life as a learning opportunity. And most importantly, don't be afraid to ask your child questions about their mental health. Honestly, you might not even realize it, but you're essentially teaching your child whenever you listen to them attentively and model and share your own emotions and reactions to stressors that you both may have experienced or are currently going through. So remember that you can be a role model for these help-seeking behaviors. If you or your spouse can recognize symptoms or signs of depression in yourself, it's important to show your child that it's okay, not only okay to ask for help, but is really a sign of strength that's expected and encouraged in your household. And now Dr. Jane will continue on with some specifics on how you can reach out to your child and discuss their mental health concerns.
Okay, well, let's see if it works. Right, well, so as we talked about, teens right now.
You turned it off.
Turned it off.
Oh, okay. Oh, hello. All right. So teens in crisis often feel alone, and parents may want to reach out, but may not know how. So how do you reach out to your child or someone else that you feel might be at risk. Find a quiet room where you won't be interrupted. Talk with them in private. Turn off your phone. Listen to their story. Express your concern and caring. After listening, ask directly about suicide in a calm, non-judgmental way. As pointed out by others, talking about suicide does not increase your child's risk. As a parent, knowing your child, observing their behavior, know to trust your gut. Assume that you're the only one who's going to reach out. In too many instances, people talk about their concern for someone amongst themselves, but hesitate to reach out. So here's a rule of thumb. If you're wondering if someone is depressed or overly anxious, that's a sure sign that you should reach out and let them know you're concerned. If you notice something, don't wait for your child to reach out or for the school to contact you. Be proactive. And the same goes for all of us. If we're having suicidal thoughts, that's a sure sign that we need to seek help too. So if you've reached out before and didn't get the response you were looking for, don't give up. Reach out again. The first time the person may not be receptive, but keep trying. And when you're sitting there with your child, listening to what they share, empathizing with them, your parental instincts to soothe and comfort may kick in. It's counterintuitive, but try to avoid minimizing their feelings. We don't want the children to feel invalidated. Avoid trying to convince them that life is worth living. Those of us who have never experienced major depression literally cannot imagine what that feels like. It's not fun to hear that those whom we love are suffering, especially when it's our children. But minimizing their feelings isn't helpful. Also, try not to convince them that life is worth living. If someone's near a crisis point, if they're depressed, if they're not getting sleep, if they're anxious or hopeless, they're not going to be thinking clearly. So philosophical debates about life being worth living tend not to be very helpful. Nor is it helpful in that moment to point out all the good things that you see in their lives. Save those conversations for when the crisis has passed. Try to avoid advice to fix it. If someone was having a heart attack, you wouldn't tell them to start exercising or to eat a healthier diet in that moment. If they're in crisis, what they need is to be heard. It's enough to listen to their story and to offer to help them find a health professional. So take the conversation seriously. Don't wait to act. Be calm and prepared to listen to your child. Directly ask your child, have you ever felt so bad that you have had thoughts of suicide? They may offer details, but if they say yes, you may gently ask for specifics. Don't probe if they're reluctant to offer. Reassure them that help is available and that you're going to help them get help. Validate their feelings and let them know that you care. Again, asking the question directly will not put the thought in his or her head if they're already not thinking about it. You may also want to talk to others who interact with your child, like your teachers, their coaches, their friends, to see if they've noticed any changes in behavior. Remember, a stressor that may seem small to you may not be small for your child. It's important to validate how your child is feeling about their current situation, even if you may see their situation very differently. So there are some steps that you can take that we've covered if your child reports thoughts of suicide, or if you suspect that your child may be feeling suicidal. Even though it's hard to do, and you will probably be scared yourself, just know that it's okay to feel scared as a parent or an adult. Remember to stay calm. Let them know that they did the right thing by opening up to you, and thank them for having the courage to tell you. Then reassure them that you're going to get them help. So contact a mental health professional for an evaluation appointment as soon as possible. As Alyssa said, reduce the immediate stressors when possible. This may include things like taking a sick day from school, a mental health day, missing that football practice. A good rule of thumb is to think of what exceptions you would allow if your child had a strep throat infection or a broken bone. It's no different, really. Finally, take a moment to secure the lethal items in your home. Make sure any firearms in your home are secured and locked and stored separately from ammunition or temporarily held by someone you trust until the crisis is past. Lock up any prescription medications or other items your child has mentioned that they were planning to use, safety razors, etc. Make the environment reasonably safe for as long as necessary. So how do we know if our children are in crisis? Well, if you discover a suicide note written by your child, or your child reports hearing voices telling him or her to hurt himself or kill himself or herself. If you feel that you're too afraid to leave your child alone for fear that he or she may suicide or attempt suicide, or if you interrupt or discover your child making a non-lethal attempt, taking some pills, cutting herself, wanting to die. Sometimes scheduling an appointment a few days from the incident is not enough. If your child's in crisis, you need to take action immediately. So other signs that your child's in crisis, if they've actually fleshed out some kind of plan as far as how they would hurt themselves. Again, if you discovered a suicide note online or on paper, if your child tells you they're hearing voices, if you just feel in your gut that your child's not safe and you can't leave them alone, or if they've made other non-lethal attempts. So take them to an emergency room or a mental health center for evaluation immediately. We have a national suicide prevention hotline. It's 1-800-273-TALK, T-A-L-K. That's 1-800-273-8255. Also make sure that you secure or remove items from your home that could potentially be used to carry out a suicide. So at this point, the most responsible action is to get help from a trained professional who can assess your child and help you figure out the next steps. Don't leave your child alone until after they've been assessed. Supervise them at all times. Remember that addressing your concerns about suicide directly and with compassion sends your child a very important message, and that is that you notice, that you care, and that you're going to help them get help. So for emergencies, such as a suicide attempt in progress, call 911. And you can also access help any time of day, any day of the week, by texting the phrase TALK, T-A-L-K, to the number 741-741. That's 6 digits, 741-741. And you'll be connected with a trained crisis counselor from the crisis text line for free. So call the lifeline yourself, and a trained counselor will tell you what you should do to help the person in distress. And now would actually be a good time if you would like to add this contact on your phone. You can add this lifeline. You never know when you'll need it. The number again is 1-800-273-8255. That's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Yeah. So just remember that talking can save lives. All it takes is one caring, compassionate adult to take notice and start the conversation. As my predecessors have said, the most important person in your child's life is you. So with you, we can create a culture that's smart about mental health and suicide prevention. Hopefully, we can save lives and vastly improve the lives of many more. Thank you for your time today.
Okay, great. I have a teacher voice, so I can speak nice and loudly. We've been doing a lot of research on this issue. Unfortunately, I've been forced to do a lot of research on this issue. And with the increase in suicide attempts, suicide completions, interestingly enough, kind of coincides with usage of electronic devices and exposure to social media. So one of the things that was not discussed today, but I cannot encourage you enough, the importance to really have a handle on what your children are doing on social media, because they are reaching out to students who are out there. They are being exposed to things. They are researching topics in ways in which they can complete the act of taking their life. They're reaching out to students who also do not want to share with others that they know who want to take their lives. It may be a little bit intrusive, but it is a necessary step given what our children are exposed to, that we as parents, and I include myself in that, need to be aware of and not be afraid, because it does mean potentially saving your child's life by knowing what they're doing as far as social media is concerned. Okay?
And I'm gonna add, follow your gut as a parent. You all know your children better than anybody else. So if something doesn't seem right, if a friendship seems awkward, if people seem to be whispering or spending a lot of time behind, isolated behind the door, we're finding in our research that there's students that are making agreements with each other too. So you do it, I do it, kind of thing. And that's scary. It's very scary to us. So you want to make sure that you really are aware. And the big thing that came up over and over again through all of these slides is the change. Not necessarily, look, if your child was always quiet, is always, somewhat isolated, because maybe that's their personality and it's not a change. A change is when they are act one way and then you see another. Are they quiet and then aggressive? Were they always happy and happy-go-lucky and active, and then now they're not? You know what I'm saying? So, that change. And don't always just say, oh, well, they're going through adolescence, or you can't just always make excuses for that. You have to really address it.
I also just wanted to add, unfortunately last week I was the person to tell a parent that their child had made a suicide attempt within the last 3 weeks, and the parent had no knowledge of that. And that was because he chose a method, obviously, thank God, that he was not able to complete, but something using household items available and things within this room that he could have used to try to kill himself. We take all of these situations extremely seriously here in school. If you do not know what to do, I cannot emphasize enough, please pick up that phone, call 911, call school, and we will assist you with getting the assistance that you need if you're not sure of what those steps need to be.
So here, I think we've seen kids in the school, we've seen kids in the emergency. So a lot of time, I think parents, when they realize there's a problem, they still hesitate or, finding or really, bring their kids for treatment. They're always worried about what's the side effects from medications, or is it really helpful or not. So in that case, I think it's always discussed with the care providers. and asking what are the options and what are the what are the side effects of the medication. So as anything that we cover in our world, actually, there are always ups and downs for anything. So medications, as we developed, we did a lot of research. So they do have some side effects, but it doesn't mean that all the kids will have the side effects. And also it depends on the, caregivers, that when we start low, when we go, very slowly, we can really avoid a lot of side effects from the medication. Of course, there's no magic pill or anything. There are so many times that it's not just one issue or just because of mental health issues or because of, so my kids failed, or a lot of things come together and combine together and make the kids with very complex factors that contribute to it. So that's why as parents, because you are the one that you know your kids, the best, and observing them day in, day out. So any changes, that you probably are the first one to discover, and then feel free anytime to, if they're going still to school, come to school and discuss with the guidance counselors and teachers, or if there's any crisis, do not have the phone, or even, call 911 to bring them for assessment at least. Questions? Yes.
Yes, I'm glad that the lady spoke about social media.
Yeah.
My daughter, she attempted suicide earlier this year in February. Thank God, she wasn't successful. Since social media and since she got a phone, it seemed like she changed. And we feel like that's almost the bane of her existence right now, the social media and the telephone. My question was what, if any, is there any protocols in place in the school regarding bullying?
This phase of adolescence, what is it really? I mean, Dr. Pong can really talk about this much more eloquently and comprehensively than I can. But as we think about this phase of adolescence, oh, it's good. Okay, between the phases of childhood when our young people are completely dependent on us parents, or as full adults. It's a phase of transition, right? They're still in many ways immature, even though their bodies are maturing. Their minds are rapidly undergoing development and maturation, but still things aren't always evenly developing, right? Teens are known for being impulsive. Their hormones also affect how they think. They aren't able to really accurately assess risk very well, so risk-taking can be a problem. They might not appreciate the consequences of their decisions. At the same time, they're developing interests and social skills. They're being exposed to more and more abstract thinking. Their classes get harder, right? So there's kind of this uneven development that happens. As they pull away from their parents and become more and more independent, they want to hang out more and more with their peers. They're in a world that's, in which there are forces that often make them feel very alone and atomized. So the provision or having available things like social media are really a problematic technology in which people try to connect. What they're trying to do is they're trying to connect, they're trying to create, they're trying to communicate and share. They're learning about the world. Social media can also be a tool for learning about the world in which they're exploring and discovering and interacting with and being a part of it, right? So I don't want to just completely dismiss these technologies, which are a part of our reality, but I just want to contextualize it for what it is, and how it might be able to be used. Because often I think we often discover that not only is it a factor in triggering people and making or facilitating things like shame, but also it can be a way of staying in touch with people. So I think that's the fine balance that we have to try to strike. As far as the bullying, though, I would certainly defer to the school and Dr. Pond.
So I I also just want to say too that, it's whether we like it or not, technology is here to stay. It's the way in which our children communicate with one another. We need to understand it. We need not to be afraid of it, but we need to definitely monitor what's going on with them. Some people think I'm crazy, but I have all of my son's text messages sent to my phone, so I'm literally reading every text and every group chat that he's a part of, so that I can see, what's kind of going on in his world. Specifically, as far as bullying is concerned, we have a zero tolerance policy in this building. But what I would say to any of you is that if there are any situations that you're aware of, if you bring that to our attention, those are immediately investigated, and we do get back to the parents and inform the parents of situations once we've conducted an investigation. Unfortunately, many times, because these things are done through social media, we're not really made aware of them until there's a crisis situation that occurs. So I would encourage any of you, and to get the word out there, that if you feel that students are being bullied, that's intentional, repeated attempts at hurting someone else, whether it's physical, emotional, that those be reported to your child's guidance counselor, Ms. Mayor, our parent coordinator, the principal, myself, anyone that you feel comfortable reporting that to in school. And in addition to that, we do a number of trainings in school with not only the teachers, but the students as well, to report that. And believe it or not, we do have a number of students who do come to express concern for friends of theirs who feel that they feel are maybe the target of some unwanted comments or whatever that may be, and we address those immediately.
And I have to add to that, this year there's been a huge increase in the number of students who come and advocate for their friends, for their peers, more than any other year, where they feel that someone may be depressed, or someone may be picked on, or someone may be bugging, or they saw something on social media. As soon as we hear about it, we investigate. We have a number of staff members that are really great at surfing the social media outlets and getting back to us about some of the conversations that are taking place. So many of the students these days are trying to measure themselves up against, some of our celebrities or sports stars or their friends or peers. They put themselves in buckets and don't think much of themselves as compared to others. So we have our job here, and we try to work on it, and we actually push more this year than ever before to focus on the emotional social piece of high school and preparing them for the future, is having them feel good about themselves, working on themselves, not always worrying about how to compare themselves. So that's some of the work that the guidance counselors have been doing in the guidance department.
Are the bullies required, or, what kind of evaluation do they undergo? Because we're talking about conduct disorders, not the trans part of them. I wonder.
We usually find out that those that are hurting others physically, mentally, or emotionally are usually doing it because they don't feel really good about themselves.
Correct.
So,
There was a new study that just came out that said there was a higher suicide. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Got it. There's a new study that came out that said that there's actually a high suicide rate within bullies. So I think it's interesting. It's hard to make any sort of definitive statements about exactly what's happening. But people lash out at others when there's something that they feel insecure about themselves, or that it's a great way to focus the attention off of yourself, all onto somebody else. So some people sort of view it as like a deflection. So there's these issues of irritability and
chronic
Exactly.
self-esteem.
You know,
Right, yeah.
depression can be they're saying that they're really sad, or it could just be this constant irritability, continuous irritability. So it can be both, it can show up in a lot of different ways.
And a lot of bullies, actually, they were being bullied when they were, at different locations, different opportunities. So kids try to use, yeah, it can be. So this is the part of the developmental stage that kids constantly looking for, peers and try to find the ways that they develop their own characters. So they try to identify with peers, or some kids, as bullies that already pointed out, that inside they feel like either they're not sufficient, for themselves, or they're so angry they could not manage these emotions, they lash it out, right? Or they think that they're not good enough, and then they target other kids, make other kids suffer. Somehow they feel like this is a way of showing that they are stronger. So these are, and there are a lot of underlying issues that we're seeing behind these behaviors. So again, as we're talking about suicide, as parents, when you hear your kids talking about these things, try to open up the talk. Try to open up, what's going on, instead of saying, deal with this, okay? This is the part of the growth, okay? Deal with this. Or boys will say, you're the boy, not crying all the time. So as parents, you want to open that dialogue. You want to, keep the channel open. And also, I think, help them to also come back to school and then discuss with the school counselors. A lot of time, when the kids have experienced this for a certain period of time, you will see that they become depressed, or they become withdrawal, that they don't want to come to school anymore. When these happening, we call change, right? Change in their behavior, change in their mood, or change in their school performance. Please bring them to the mental health care providers for evaluation and assessment. A lot of times, these coaching sessions, or what we call talk therapy or psychotherapy, these are the sessions similar to our school guidance counselors provided for the kids in school, is that helping them to learn how to manage their own emotions, how to manage the relationship between their peers or even the bullies, how they react or how to hold their reaction. So these are a lot of ways we can help the kids to develop the social skills during this developmental stage. Yeah.
Yeah. Might be owned by other children, but they also might not have nobody to go to as a parent to say that they're bullied by their parents. Now, what about children that can go to their parents, to their parents, and tell them how they feel?
Yes, yeah. So in that case, they can come to people they feel like they can talk to.
They can go to no adult. What do you understand?
Yeah.
Like, why go to a parent? I can't talk to my parent. That's my dog. I'm supposed to trust them. And I can't communicate.
Yes, we do. And I think that one of the things that we have seen, and one of the reasons why 10 years ago we went to a small learning community structure in our building, was to create these smaller, more personal environments for our students to exist. It gives our students a chance that they don't fall through the cracks, that when we see these warning signs or these things that are concerning, that there are staff, not just guidance counselors and assistant principals, but there are staff, whether it's a school aide, a cafeteria worker, whoever it may be, who recognizes that and has developed a relationship with that child and knows what to do when they recognize these situations. And as Ms. D'Angelo said, we do have a growing number of students who also are getting their voice and sharing with us the concerns that they have for their friends and their classmates. So
And they're learning these skills. Our students aren't just evolving and waking up one day and saying, "Ooh, let me advocate for my friends," or the people that I see that are in need. We're training them to do that. They're working in the peer group connection program, the PGC program, where they're learning to be mentors, where our present 10th graders were mentored last year, and they were guided through some skill building, social emotional skill building, and seniors, and we're hoping eventually those students who were mentored will be our mentees at some point when they hit 11th and 12th grade and kind of pay forward some of those skills that they learned along the way. It's very strategic. Nothing happens by accident.
But have you ever noticed some of the bullies in that program?
Yes.
They're changing around.
Yeah, and in addition to the PGC program, we also started this year a class for students who were identified as at risk in the 9th grade that are in a class targeted to develop their leadership skills, their communication skills. So we are doing many different things in the school. It's just you have a school of 2,000 students and we're trying to touch and get to every solitary one of them.
Really, but he's been doing.
There's a lot of satisfaction that they feel helping the 9th grade students. It's a fabulous program. It's loving both sides of it. So let me ask you, one of our teachers that are here, one of our coordinators. Are you going to find out who's doing it?
That situation has been dealt with already, back in February. But my concern was furthermore what protocols in place for someone else.
We need to empower kids being bullied and who are bullies to empower themselves to reach out for help. Because that's really what it's all about. It's empowering them, and because they feel helpless. That's why they bully other people, because they're feeling helpless. So, and empowering them, teaching about mental health, coaching skills, it gives them a sense of purpose, gives them a sense of power. This program sounds fantastic. So it'll kind of rechannel some of that energy they have into something positive.
And we will be starting lunch groups where students will be in circles and we will hear their voices and hear their concerns and hear how life can be made better for them, especially in school. That will start. We will get the information out to the students and to the parents, so you know that will happen on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the library, the back room, the private room, where students will be in groups, circles. Actually filling circle work. So we're hoping that will catch on and allow students to share some of the issues that they are feeling in a very confidential manner. But with peers that are their own age that may be feeling the same thing. Last year we had a family day. We didn't have as many parents as we would like. I think less than 40 showed up. But we ran circles with parents and we have parents in tears because you're not alone. Probably some of the things you're feeling, some of the fears you have, we all have. My son started high school this year. I'm fearful every day. There's things in life that you are concerned about. And so you're not alone. And so here we got parents that were together that came in, they spent the day with us, the students presented. We had tons and tons of food, way too much food because not enough parents showed up. But they were in circles and they were able to do things and they were able to share their hopes and dreams for their children, but yet they were able to share the concerns they have. And as we move forward, we are going to do that Family Day again, but this time it's going to be at night because I think it's hard for parents to give up that Saturday. So we're going to do it so you can put it on your paper, April 19th. It's a Thursday night, and so put it down because that'll be a really great experience for you and your child if they want to come, and they'll be part of that. April 19th.
April 19th.
No, she said the times. Oh, it's 6:30. 6:30. Yeah.
So he came up to you and he told you.
Well, he had expressed to his guidance counselor that he was having feelings of wanting to do harm to himself. The counselor immediately informed me. We further had a conversation and using some of those tips in a very calm, non-judgmental kind of way, asked him a series of questions in terms of whether or not he had a plan. Did he have access to a means to carry out that plan? And I asked him whether he had made any attempts, previous attempts. And he had answers to all three of those questions. So, and mom and dad were completely unaware of that. They were not aware at all. Mom was immediately contacted. She came up to school, and she immediately took him to a mental health provider, and is now currently in treatment.
And I want to share the opposing story. So the other day, I received a phone call from another school where a girlfriend of one of our students shared with her guidance counselor that she had concerns that her boyfriend, who attended here, might want to harm himself and possibly commit suicide. And right away, I went straight to Ms. Gannon. We got a hold of the student and went through the protocols as well. And we didn't feel that he had a plan, and we didn't feel that it was, not that we didn't feel, but based on the protocol, he didn't have the answers for us. So we still notified the parent, we still had that conversation, and he shared with us why he said what he said, because his report card was gonna be bad, and he didn't wanna go home with a bad report card, because he was gonna get.
But there was some very impulsive behavior, there was some concerning behaviors that we're now currently addressing with him and his mom. And in that situation as well, mom did agree to be able to participate in some family counseling services as well. So it was a good outcome as far as that was concerned. So.
Oh, about like means,
Right.
What kinds of thoughts you're having, if you had any particular plan or thoughts about how you might perform it. Whenever you ever feel uncomfortable, you can always bring them in for an evaluation. Anytime you have a concern like that, we're at the hospital. Sure.
So I think also one thing to keep in mind would be that it's a good time to listen. You don't have to say much at that moment. If for any kid to say even something to their parent, it's tough. It takes.
And if I can just add this, in that situation, the most difficult thing for that child was that he was concerned that his mom was going to be upset. And he very calmly was able to tell me and answer all of those questions for me, but he was devastated that his mom would be upset with him and was going to worry about him. And fortunately, mom really was spot on. We thanked him for being honest and willing to share how he was feeling. She assured him that she loved him and that they were going to seek treatment. And there was no, no guilt, no anger, nothing. So we were very fortunate in that situation.
And I want to share one other story too, because it's a story that is, again, made pretty amazing. That one of our students. So there was a student last year who, for an unknown reason, decided to email me on a weekend. It was a Saturday night. I'm not even joking. I'm at a party. I look at my phone for whatever reason, because her and I were like storks. We're always on our phones trying to look at our emails and just keep up with everything. And I see a message. This is very important. I believe that one of my friends is going to hurt myself. I don't know who to turn to, so I'm emailing you, Ms. DeAngelis. This is no joke. I immediately call Ms. Gannon, who immediately calls the guidance counselor. As she's filling the guidance counselor in on what we think is going to happen, I am on the phone with 911 and staying on the phone with 911, and I am sending an ambulance to this child's house because on our phones, we can get any of your contact information instantly now because of schedule of pupil death. Thank goodness. With the app, I was able to pull up the information. I was on the phone with 911 until they actually rang the bell. The boy was in his bed, okay? He had a full plan. This child that went to this school that knew him was right on target. He knew something was different. He knew that something scared him, and he saved that kid's life. That mother till this day thanks us because she had no clue. There was nothing that he was in his room playing video games for the night. It wasn't the night that he was choosing to do what he was doing, but he had a full-fledged plan. And he ended up in the hospital for a couple of weeks. But we saved that kid's life.
Just us five.
I'm kidding. No, but anybody who knows, who's sought mental health treatment knows that Staten Island is very difficult to get treatment as soon as possible, right? I mean, we want treatment 5 minutes from now. It's very difficult for that to happen. We were like beyond grateful that the hospital was able to provide us 1 day a week on-site services in addition to the services that we already had, but to have the ability to have psychiatrists who can do evaluations and assessments, you know, we'll call and say, we have serious concerns about this student. They'll drop what they're doing and they'll assess that child immediately. And if we have to get them to a hospital or to a treatment provider, we make that happen. So we're very blessed to have the five with us. We are hoping to have more. We're gonna shoot for more.
And you can, do you mind if I just add one thing on
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the
yeah.
answer? If you really feel like there's imminent risk, that you really feel like your child is going to hurt themselves, and you really need to get psychiatric care, you can bring them to the ED. And we are the face, some of the faces that you'll see if you go to one.
On Seaview Avenue or on Saginaw Avenue, we always have a psychiatrist in.
Right, 24/7.
Yeah.
So it's always, a lot of time through assessment, also in the meantime, we also capture that opportunity to provide a lot of psychoeducation coaching during the session. A lot of time the kids, when they came in, probably filled with all these frustrations or they don't know what to do. Once we're letting them, you know, open up and talking to us, and then gradually they will calm down. So with that evaluation, that one evaluation, a lot of time can really stabilize them. So do not feel hesitant if you feel like, I don't know how to deal with my kid. When they say that, what I'm going to do not hesitate to bring them to them. A lot of time, you know, that's the, I think is the opportunity for the kids to seek for help and then to, you know, link with them and also.
You said about coachless.
Coaching lessons.
Level therapy, right.
How to get the how to.
Right. So it depends on, you know, assessment to see like what exactly the situation. So to get that, most of the time, you know, it has to go with the parents, you know, your primary provider who will probably provide you some things in the community. Or you can call your insurance. The pediatricians,
Your
family
actual
doctors.
pediatrician, your medical doctors, they can do referrals to, just as they would give you referrals for the heart or pulmonary or eyes, they can also refer you for, you know, a mental evaluation.
We don't have a list of like people specifically that we refer to, because it depends so much on your insurance.
Okay,
We'll-
so let's
definitely
connect
work
at
on
the end
that.
of the meeting and see what we can do.
So are there any other questions? If not, we're going to, okay.
Yes, I have a question. We've been discussing a lot about how to deal with these issues, right? But what about preventive? Kids these days have a lot of stress. They're complaining, oh, I'm overstressed from this, from that, from the schedule. They have lack of sleep. They have poor diet. So how do you address or how do you educate children to take the right approach in their body health. So since it was discussed, it's correlated with the mental health. So it can be preventive from further issues in the future. Right, so, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight as a parent. So always, we're saying at home, you provide that kind of healthy lifestyle with the kids, and then introduce them with all these kind of different venues to reduce their, relax themselves. So that's the preventive venues that should be ongoing. Encourage the kids to go out to do the exercise instead of staying, with the computer for 7-8 hours. And sometimes when the kids are younger, you probably want to set up some house rules. For example, if the kids does not sleep at 10 p.m. or even up to midnight, you probably want to say, let's have a house rule that everyone put our cell phone in the living room and not bring them into the bedroom. I know. I mean, this is sounds now.
It's true. There's all sorts of studies that when they're on the phone or on the iPads, it stimulates something in the brain and makes it hard for them to sleep.
They can't.
That's out there.
Yeah, they can't.
So,
They cannot.
But it's like home regulations, home rules, and because kids spend most of their time in the school, I would say half of the day and few hours
School
with
also
parents.
education.
So
Yeah.
do you have like health class or like any workshop? Recently, some other states implemented mindful meditation.
Yes.
During the classroom, they had like 5-10 minutes just to sit quietly, relax, to set their minds. So do you have something?
It's funny that you asked that, and I'm looking that way towards Ms. Simony. We're working with the borough president right now on a pilot program where students are monitoring their heart rates. They're monitoring through exercise early in the morning so that they could stay focused through the day. We do have a health class where students are learning. It's mandatory. Every student in the school has to take the health class. It's at different levels, but we try to introduce it on the 10th grade level right now, correct? So that the students learn about healthy living. We, especially our Health Science Institute, run different themes or focuses for different months. So it's sobriety, where we ask kids not to be drinking soda for, give a pledge of no soda, give a pledge of no smoking. We're monitoring them using those vapes because it just aggravates us, me, big time, because they don't know what's in there and we don't know what's in there. So, and I'm not saying bad thing, I'm talking the future. Our ancestors smoked and thought it was cool, and now look at what it does to everybody. So, we try very hard to monitor those things. We sell only healthy snacks in school. We try to ask the students. We have more students eating lunch now than ever before. Our lunch numbers are really high. That kids are actually online getting lunch, so we're really happy with that. There's more students eating breakfast now than ever before, and those are facts because we have the numbers. We look at them all the time. Since we started the entrance here and students come in here and they smell the breakfast, they eat the breakfast. So, we did that on purpose. That was, again, a very strategic decision that we made.
Nice. So I also just want to add that Ms. DeAngelis and I have been here for a very long time. And if you look at schools that are similar in size to ours, we have made a commitment to providing support services to our students. The number of guidance counselors, social workers that we have on staff compared to schools that are similar in size to ours is second to none. The counselors were just recently trained received training on a program that we're going to be putting into effect next month, meaning December, tomorrow, Friday, which is called Character Playbook, which is an online digital learning program where students will receive lessons in social emotional learning. In addition, something that's coming soon to us is that we were able to get an organization, a foundation that's called, and you can look this up, it's called Beautiful Me, which is a program geared towards self-esteem, building self-esteem in young women. And they're coming to train our guidance counselors, and all of the girls in the school will be trained in Beautiful Me training. So we're doing, there are many things in place But I really can't underemphasize the partnership that we have with you. And I know you say they're here with us 6 hours a day, but they're home with you also, and we need you to lay that foundation in terms of setting some parameters for them in terms of their sleep, their eating, their exercise, and all of those things, just like, the structure, yes. I mean, it's very important. I don't care what anybody says, however old your child is, structure. They thrive on it. We love it. You can't get enough structure as far as I'm concerned.
And modeling.
Yes. Yes. And because you mentioned that word modeling, just to go back 1 second, if this is my soapbox moment, that when it comes to social media, I cannot emphasize again enough how important it is that you model good social media presence for yourself. Our kids are aware of what we're doing on social media, and when they see us putting out negativity out there, they need to see us behaving the way we hope people are behaving with our children. So I can't encourage you enough to do that as well, to model that behavior.
And have that honest dialogue with your child. Like, I gotta tell you that my son now says to me, Ma, put down the phone. Enough with the emails, you need to listen to me. I'm busy. I'm here. I'm a busy worker. And sometimes I need people like Miss Gannon and my son and my husband to tell me that I need to spend more time with him, because that's important too. So you have to find that balance and that time, because it's important. And you blink your eye. I'm sure all of you didn't think that your children would be in high school right now. I certainly didn't think so. So you have to make that time, and you have to make those adjustments and those sacrifices, because our job as parents, it's not done yet.
Did you have a session with the students in the auditorium, telling them who they can go to in the school?
Yes.
They fear for
In
another
small
student?
groups by SLCs with their guidance counselors there, that was all discussed and monitored, and we did it in small groups on purpose. But it gets reinforced again and again and again.
How can you possibly monitor these kids on social media? They have a million accounts. You don't have passwords. You can't get into anything. It's blocked.
Actually,
You can't see anything.
Yes. Regarding the idea of open dialogue, I know we talk about, maintaining that with your own child, but also, if you can, trying to maintain an open dialogue with their peers, so that they feel comfortable coming to you. Because it's true, you're just one person. You cannot possibly monitor their 7 accounts on Twitter and all the other Snapchat crap. But really, if they are willing to reach out to you, like in all these examples that are provided, they feel comfortable. They see you as not like an authority figure only, but someone that they can turn to. Maybe even if they can't turn to their own parents, you can serve as that adult, that responsible adult and caring person in their life, at least to some degree. So they can come to you when they notice a change in your child's behavior. And just one other quick point, I'm so happy that there are so many people in this room, but I just want to add that there are so many other parents that aren't here. And so any chance you get, please try to share this message with everyone you know, your neighbors, your friends, your family, anyone.
And tonight's conversation will be online,
and
correct?
yes, that film
So
that's
you
online, you can always send that out through YouTube or text message. It's called More Than Sad. Thank you.
On YouTube.
Wait, let me.
For the kids with social media that you're worried about what they're going through, you guys are not going to be that. I have 5 kids. I've taken care of 4 of them, that all teenagers. Okay? I have something on my phone called Our Power Pop. I block everything that I don't want my kids. That's how I punish my kids. Every day, 8 o'clock comes, all their devices are turned off.
What is it called?
Our Pack. And it connects everything. Now we have an upgrade version where you can disable any app that you don't want them to go on. You don't need to know passwords or any of that. You got to show it to their phone. And if you have a problem giving their phone to you, they don't need it. That's it.
I was just about to say that I just asked my kids to do passwords and they'd be like, yeah, Mom.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Answer me, what about the boys?
I know.
Their self-esteem is.
I agree 100%, but I have to take steps, right? It's not gonna happen overnight. And we're just fortunate to try to build the capacity. And girl power, we're gonna start with the girls and then we're gonna spread it out to the boys. So
Well, let me know.
girls rule. That's right. Right now, girls rule. Sorry. Sorry. Yes.
You guys been having something for the boys, I mean, particularly in the light of a lot of sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Hearing about, you guys are having something.
Yes. So
Appropriate behaviors, expected behaviors.
and we do for the entire school, not only the girls, the entire school. The counselors go in and do lessons on sexual harassment, and respecting all, whether it's correct. So there are a number of things that are going on. I just wanted to highlight those 2 new things that we're rolling into place this year with the emphasis on social emotional learning.
And we bring a lot of guest speakers in, really powerful guest speakers, and I've seen them over and over again, and I'm still brought to tears every single solitary time. And I know what's coming, and I could still stand there and the tears just roll. So I know it's impactful, and I know our kids talk about it for years. I'm sure if you have any upperclassmen here and go home and ask about the guest speakers that come in, they'll be able to tell you about Dr. Mikey or John Harrigan or Kevin Parker.
Is that what the Eagle edition?
No, that's next Tuesday. That's next Tuesday. And I'm hoping everyone will be at 6:30. That's that, but that's different. But I'm talking about assembly presentation. We had a former student come back and talk about his journey and, what has happened in his life. And it was absolutely amazing. It was packed, 800 kids in the auditorium. You could have dropped a pin, not a word. Every kid was so attentive. It was insane. Kevin.
A couple of us have to go, so just wanted to thank you for your time. And
Okay, our guidance counselors are here. We can ask more questions. Thank you.